My name is Diane Mercer. I am 62 years old, and for 40 years I worked in banquet halls, hotel kitchens, and dining rooms where other people toasted their milestones. I prepared tables for governors and CEOs, arranged flowers for charity galas, and returned home smelling faintly of lemon polish and rosemary chicken. Today was supposed to be the day I saw my daughter step into her new life. Instead, I stood in front of iron gates that were shut in my face. Hank and I arrived at the Hill Country Vineyard around 2:30. The sun was sharp and bright on the chrome of our old but freshly washed Toyota Camry. My husband drove slowly, careful, as always, hands tight around the wheel. He was wearing his one good suit, the charcoal one he pressed twice last night. I smoothed my dress and breathed in the warm Texas air. I expected music, servers, guests drifting through the garden with champagne. I expected to see our daughter smiling, waiting for us. Instead, I saw guards. Two men in black stood at the gate. No vineyard uniforms, no friendly nods, just crossed arms and stone faces. We rolled closer, and I leaned forward, confused. Something white was taped to the gate with strips of clear laminate shining in the heat. I blinked once, then twice. It was a photograph, our photograph, me and Hank sitting on our porch last spring, drinking sweet tea and laughing like people who still believed love was simple. Over that photo was a bold red stamp. This pair not allowed. Security risk. Do not admit. Hank stopped breathing for a second. I heard the air catch in his throat. He whispered like a man speaking at a funeral. "Di, what is this? Is this a joke?" Then I looked up. On the balcony above us stood my daughter, Leia. She was radiant in white lace with pearls trailing down her shoulders. Beside her stood Marjorie Langford, her future mother-in-law, perfect in pearl earrings and a wide-brimmed hat. Leia looked straight at us. She saw our car. She saw the sign. She raised her champagne glass with a small, bright smile. Not sorrow, not shame, relief. And in that moment, something inside my chest went quiet. Not broken, just still. I did not scream. I did not run to the gate. I placed my hand on Hank's arm, steady and calm, like I had practiced for years in kitchens where timing was everything. "Turn around, Hank." He looked at me, eyes wet and lost. "Please turn the car around." Our tires rolled through gravel. The vineyard disappeared in the rear mirror. And as we drove, a single thought settled inside me like a cold, clear stone. If my daughter believed we were not worthy to enter through those gates, then she was not worthy of everything we built to give her this day. I was not born wealthy. I did not grow up in silk or under chandeliers. I built my life the way you build a house, out of bare soil and stubborn hope, brick by brick, tip by tip, one paycheck after another. My husband, Hank, did the same. For 40 years, I worked in catering halls and hotel ballrooms, where the lights never dimmed and the music never stopped. I trained waiters to pour wine without shaking, ironed table linens until my fingers hurt, and memorized the sound of deadlines like a heartbeat. While other families vacationed in Florida or saved for lake houses, we saved for one thing only: our daughter, Leia. Leia was bright, sharp as a needle, and quick with words. Even as a child, she was our miracle baby. We packed her lunches, stayed up through school projects, sat through dance recitals, in college, advising meetings with the kind of pride that makes your chest warm. I never minded the double shifts when I pictured her future glowing ahead like a lit stage. But children grow, and sometimes they grow in directions we never imagined. When Leia left for college, she came home different. Not in clothes or hairstyle, but in tone. She looked around our modest Dallas home like it was too small for her new world. She flinched when Hank spoke about his job. She asked me to stop bringing leftover dinner rolls to her dorm because it made her look poor. I told myself she was young, that identity wobbles when you first meet the world. Then she met Trevor Langford, a man with a fading family name that still carried the echo of old oil money. His mother, Marjorie, spoke of heritage the way some people speak of scripture: country clubs, generational wealth. The Langfords moved like they still own land, even though half of it was sold years ago. Leah started polishing her speech. She introduced us as the Mercers, not Mom and Dad. She asked Hank to wear sleeves around her friends so they would not see the work scars on his arms. She laughed lightly when people assumed we were just supportive hosts instead of her parents. She did not correct them. That was the first moment I felt something shift. Not a break, just a quiet crack, the kind only you can hear inside your own ribs. We told ourselves it was normal. Children reach upward, parents stay grounded. But deep down, I knew we had entered a new chapter, one where love still existed, but respect had started to fade like old ink. 6 months before the wedding, our life revolved around one date circled in bright red on the kitchen calendar, June 22nd, the day our only daughter would walk down the aisle, the day that 40 years of quiet sacrifice would bloom into one beautiful celebration. Planning became my second heartbeat. I used every contact I had earned through years of sweat and grace. Chefs who owed me favors, florists who remembered when I covered their mistakes at charity gallas, musicians who once played for free because I fed them after hours. I called each one like a conductor calling her orchestra. The venue was the Crown Jewel, a historic vineyard owned by Richard Hale, a man I once helped secure catering for his second wedding. When I asked for the estate, he hesitated. Booked for a year, he said. But then he remembered the dinners I saved, the crises I handled, the nights I stayed after closing. For you, Diane, he told me, I can make one weekend appear where there was none. And so he did. Hank and I emptied our savings slowly but completely. His retirement account, my hidden envelope of tips, saved since Leah left for college, the small ring from his mother pawned quietly 2 towns over. We told no one. We smiled and said, "Of course, sweetheart, whatever you dream for your wedding, we will make it real." Still, Leah took the stage as if she built it herself. She spoke to the Langfords about connections, told friends she secured the vineyard through her network. I corrected nothing. A mother does not interrupt her child's spotlight, not even when she is the one holding the light. Sometimes she hinted that we should keep our clothes simple on the wedding day. Nothing too bold, she said. We don't want to look out of place. Out of place? As if we were guests, not the foundation beneath every flower, every plate, every promise. I chose to believe she was nervous. Weddings make people dream of perfection and forget the hands that raised them. But somewhere inside, a small voice whispered, "Not everything we build is meant to be carried with us. Some things grow away." On the highway ride back toward Dallas, I watched the Texas landscape roll by like a film I had already seen too many times. But my mind was still at that gate, that single moment replayed in slow motion, sharper each time. The laminate on our photograph was too neat to be last minute. Someone printed it, someone mounted it, someone taped it up with care. The words in red looked like the stamp on food shipments I used to reject in the hotel kitchen. Not safe, returned to sender. Except this time, the shipment was me. I remembered the crunch of gravel under Hank's tires when we stopped, the heat off the hood, the silence between us thicker than anger. He kept staring forward, like if he blinked, he might wake up in a different moment, one where our daughter wanted us inside. Then the balcony door opened. Leah emerged in lace that cost more than my first car. Her hair was pinned in a soft wave, the kind magazines call effortless, though it takes hours to create. She rested her hand lightly on the railing and smiled down at us with a relief so bright it could have shattered glass. It was not the smile of a bride looking for her parents. It was the smile of someone glad the unwanted problem had been handled. I felt Hank's fingers twitch around the wheel. He whispered, "Di, we could go ask. Maybe someone misunderstood." He still searched for kindness in a scene that had none. I did not. I asked him to stop the car. I stepped out, walked to the gate, and ripped the sign down. The photo tore along the crease from years of laughter. I crushed it in my fist and tossed it in the back seat. My hands were steady. My heart was not. Get in, I told myself. Do not beg, do not wait for an apology that will never come. Not today. When I sat back down, Hank looked at me like a man looking at a storm he never saw forming. "You are so calm," he said. I was not calm. I was clear. Clear that love without respect is only habit. Clear that we had raised a daughter who wanted our money, but not our presence. Clear that no gate built by someone else could hold us if we chose to walk away. "Turn around, Hank," I said again quietly. He did, and the moment we left that vineyard, a different version of me took the wheel. For the first 30 minutes of that drive, neither of us spoke. The road stretched long and empty like a hallway in a house that no longer held furniture. Hank kept both hands on the wheel, knuckles pale. Every few miles, he inhaled like he wanted to say something, then let the breath dissolve. But silence can be fertile. In that quiet, a plan formed. I reached down to my old leather handbag, the same one I carried to work for decades. The clasp was worn from years of opening it to solve other people's emergencies. Inside, beneath a small packet of tissues and a roll of breath mints, was my black notebook. Not a sentimental journal, a ledger of people. Chefs, suppliers, stewards, managers. A lifetime of names who owed me favors or respected my authority. I flipped to L, then to M. Marcus Lee. He was working the wedding today. Head steward, the man overseeing the servers, the wine, the timing. 15 years ago, I hired him as a busboy, taught him how to carry 3 plates in one hand, how to square his shoulders even when he was exhausted. He used to call me Miss Diane with pride. I dialed. He answered breathlessly. "Miss Mercer, everything is running smooth. We are setting the champagne pour for guest arrival, and the quartet is warming up. We are only waiting for you and Mr. Mercer." His voice held excitement, not knowing the earth beneath that event was about to tilt. "Marcus," I said calmly, "listen to me. The sponsor has left the event." Silence, then confusion. "I do not understand. You are the client." "Yes, and I am not on site, which means contract section 4.2 applies. Convert the event to pay as you go. No open bar, no complimentary pours. Lock the premium wine cellar. Nothing leaves that kitchen unless it is paid for at the register." I could hear him straighten his posture through the phone. "Understood." He paused, then quietly, "They will not like this." "They do not need to like it," I replied. "They only need to pay for it." I hung up and closed the notebook. Hank finally looked over. "What did you just do, Di?" For the first time today, I felt my heartbeat return with purpose. "I stopped being their mother," I said. "I became the vendor they decided I was." While Hank steered us back toward Dallas, the wedding continued without the 2 people who paid for it. At the vineyard, guests filtered through the garden in pastel dresses and linen suits, pausing under oak branches wrapped in string lights. A quartet played soft cello across the lawn. Champagne flutes glimmered like tiny suns. On the surface, it was perfect, but in banquet work, perfection lasts only as long as someone is paying for it. Marcus moved through the reception like a conductor, shifting tempo without warning. One subtle gesture to the bar staff, another to the servers. I could see it in my mind, the moment the orchestra drops out of a song and the dancers do not know where to place their feet. A server carrying a tray of champagne stopped. Another lowered the silver platter of canapes. A third quietly walked the opposite direction, returning bottles to chillers instead of opening them. It happened slowly at first, then all at once. The music did not reach its final note. It simply faded. Bowstrings stilled in midair. Conversations stalled. Guests looked up from their seats, confused. A man in a navy blazer laughed as if it must be part of the program. It was not. Programs require funding. Leela stood at the head table beside Trevor, radiant and waiting to be adored. When she snapped her fingers for refills, nothing came. No champagne, no servers, only the growing sound of confusion. Marcus approached the table with a clipboard held like a shield. "Ma'am," he said, "not Leela, not dear, just ma'am. We are unable to continue open service. The event sponsor is not present." Leela blinked. "My mother paid for everything." Marcus handed her an invoice for the first hour of service. Thousands due on delivery. Wine rental, appetizers, linen, staff.
Trevor snatched the paper, and his composure cracked like thin glass. "We do not have that kind of money. You keep serving. That is an order." Marcus did not flinch. "Payment is required in advance, sir. Until then, premium reserves are locked." Behind him, the staff filed out of the reception tent in silent formation, gloves white, posture straight. Their exit was more powerful than a slammed door. They left behind 100 guests staring at empty glasses on full lyric tablecloths. Then the lights went out. Not a flicker, a full blackout. The string lights darkened. The quartet stopped entirely. The fountains hushed. A vineyard that once hosted galas fell into moonlit stillness. Guests gasped. Someone cursed. A woman lost her shoe in the grass. And out of the darkness walked Richard Hale. He did not wear a suit. He wore work boots and a canvas jacket. 2 large shepherd dogs paced beside him, heads low and silent. He raised a flashlight. Its beam cut across the tent and stopped at Leela like a verdict. "This property is under contract to one person," he said. "That person is not here. You have 30 minutes to exit. After that, I lock the gates. No exceptions." Panic bloomed like wildfire. Chairs toppled. Guests tripped on tablecloths. Someone yelled for Uber. Someone else cried that she had left her purse by the cake. And amid the chaos, Trevor shouted at Leela loud enough to silence the nearest tables. "Your parents were supposed to pay. That is why we are here. You said they had the money. You promised." She stared at him, stunned, as if struck. He did not stop. "We married you because we thought your family was loaded. You are nothing without them. Nothing." The bride stood alone among overturned chairs and melting ice buckets. Her dress stained with mud, the fairy tale unraveled thread by thread, and the bill for her dream landed squarely in her own shaking hands. By the time Hank and I reached our neighborhood, the sun had lowered into a burnt orange haze behind the rooftops. We stepped inside our quiet house like people entering a church after a storm. No music, no applause, just the soft hum of our old refrigerator and the click of Hank's keys on the counter. We did not cook dinner. We did not speak. We sat at the kitchen table with cold mugs of tea, trying to understand how love could bend into something unrecognizable. Then the doorbell rang. Not once, repeatedly, hard, a fist demanding entry. I walked to the peephole and the breath left my chest. Leela. Mud on her dress, mascara streaked like war paint across her cheeks. She looked like a child lost in the woods, but her voice was sharp as broken glass. "Mom, open the door. You have to fix this. Trevor is furious. The vendor shut everything down. They embarrassed us. I know you have money. Just pay the invoice and we can still save it." I opened the door only as far as the safety chain allowed. Hank hovered behind me, unsure whether to hope or brace himself. Before Leela could speak again, footsteps pounded up the hallway. Trevor and Marjorie arrived equally disheveled, wearing expressions carved from entitlement rather than pain. "You owe us," Marjorie snapped. "You promised a dowry, the vineyard, the service, everything. We were humiliated." Trevor pointed at me like a prosecutor. "You said you were paying for the wedding. Hand over the money." "We owe you nothing," I replied. "You removed us like stains from your perfect day. You taped our faces to a gate. You made your choice." Leela panicked. Her voice climbed. "Mom, please, I'm pregnant. You cannot abandon me. Your grandchild needs stability." Hank faltered. "Di, if that's true." I left them standing in the hallway and returned with an envelope that had arrived earlier that week, addressed to Leela from a private women's clinic. She had forgotten to change her mailing address. I passed it through the gap. She unfolded it with trembling hands, her face drained of color. It was a follow-up notice confirming the insertion of a long-term contraceptive implant, effective for 3 years. Marjorie snatched the letter, her voice sliced through the hallway. "You are not pregnant." Trevor stumbled back as if burned. "You lied to us all, even about a baby." Leela sank to the floor against the wall, mascara running dark as grief. She reached for me with shaking fingers. "Mama, I—" But there are some doors even a mother doesn't reopen once they're shut. The shouting in the hallway grew louder. Leela on the floor, crying, Trevor pacing like a cornered animal, Marjorie spitting accusations and threats. Neighbors cracked open their doors one by one, drawn by the noise. Some whispered, some shook their heads. Humiliation travels quickly through thin walls. Then came a new sound, sirens. A patrol car pulled up outside, red and blue lights pulsing against our front windows. Moments later, 2 officers stood at our door, young men with tired eyes used to sorting out family disasters on Saturday nights. We stepped aside just enough for them to see without crossing the threshold. "Evening, ma'am," one officer said politely. "We received a disturbance call, reports of yelling, possible threats. Can you explain what is happening here?" Marjorie leapt forward, pointing at us with fury. "They scammed us. They stole our daughter's dowry. We demand justice. Arrest them." The officer blinked, unimpressed. "Ma'am, do you have written proof of any agreement?" Silence. He turned to Leela. "Do you live at this residence?" She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "No, I moved out last week for the wedding." The officer nodded slowly, the way someone does when puzzle pieces fall neatly into place. "Then you have no legal right to be here. If the homeowners want you removed, you must leave." Trevor protested. "This is her parents' home. They owe us." The officer raised a hand. "They owe you nothing unless you can prove otherwise." I stepped forward, voice steady. "Officer, we simply want peace. We do not wish for charges, but we do want them gone from our building tonight." He nodded. Understood. The officers escorted them
Toward the elevator. Leela cried out one last time, "Mom, please do not throw me away." I held her gaze even as the elevator doors closed between us. "You threw us away first, sweetheart." And when the doors slid shut with a soft, final click, the hallway returned to quiet. Not the silence of loss, the silence of a boundary drawn with clarity and courage. After the patrol car left and our hallway settled back into stillness, Hank and I returned to the kitchen. We sat in the same chairs, but something inside us no longer bent under the weight of that day. We were lighter, not because we did not love our daughter, but because we finally remembered to love ourselves too. Hank stared at the table. "Di, we still have the wedding fund. Should we save a little for her in case she needs help later?" I reached for the folder on the counter, the one holding wedding invoices, catering schedules, vendor lists. Tucked inside was a single printed receipt. "Hank, the fund is gone." His head lifted. "Gone?" "I transferred all $50,000 this afternoon. Not to the Langfords, not to the Vineyard, to the North Dallas Hospice Foundation. They needed roof repairs and medication reserves. Our money will comfort people in their last days, not feed the pride of people who taped our faces to a gate." He did not speak for a moment. Then tears rose slow and warm in his eyes. "Diane, that is the kindest revenge I have ever heard." I smiled. It was not revenge, it was release. But I was not finished. From the same folder, I pulled a second paper, a bill of sale. "Remember the old brick garage your father left you? We rented it for years. Yesterday, I sold it. Enough for 2 cross-country rail tickets, first-class cabin, Dallas to the Pacific. We leave tomorrow morning." He looked at me like a man given back his youth. "Can I bring the fishing rods?" "All of them," I said. So we packed warm sweaters, comfortable shoes, his rods, my poetry. At dawn, we locked the door behind us, placed the keys with the concierge, and stepped into a waiting cab. I bought a new SIM card at the station. I blocked every number that tied us to old wounds. When the train pulled from the platform, I watched Dallas shrink like a photograph burned slowly at the edges. The horizon widened. Our hearts did too. Dear listeners, love for a child can be endless, but self-respect cannot be negotiable. Sometimes the greatest act of love is stepping away from those who treat you like a resource instead of a parent. If this story touched you, support our channel. Like, share, comment your thoughts below. Would you have opened the door for Leela, or would you have taken the train like we did? I am listening, and I thank you for being here until the very end.